It's time for Your County Conversation, your weekly dive into the people and businesses shaping our community. With the Sanford Springvale Chamber of Commerce, we're proud to share stories behind the storefronts and the voices behind your county's growth. Together, we're building a stronger local economy, one conversation at a time. This is York County Conversations.
My name's Andy Austin from York County's Morning Show with Carrie Quater, the President and Executive Director of the Sanford Springvale Chamber of Commerce. And one of the biggest projects that this city and this community has been talking about are the buildings that have been resurrected and continue to move forward thanks to one major company, which Carrie brought in this morning.
Yes, I brought in Paul Goodwin. He is the Director of Commercial Development for Chinburg Properties.
Wow, that's a big get. Thank you for being here, man. That's awesome.
Happy to be here.
Because it's such a large project. You mentioned being a Somersworth person, and Somersworth, even geographically, is a pretty small area. Sanford, pretty much the same thing. Everybody, we're a series of small towns. So when you take pride in that community and you see somebody come in and invest in it and make it better, it really makes you want to get behind the company and to see what Chinburg has done with the Jagger Mill in Springvale. First of all, a lot of people are talking about that. How's that project coming along?
Project's going very well. We're on schedule to complete the project in September, and move-ins will be starting in the beginning of October. It's been, these projects can be very complicated, but as far as an adaptive reuse of a mill building goes, that project has been very smooth. The building was well taken care of by the prior owners, the Jagger family, and that made the project a little less complicated than some others we've worked on.
How many units are going into that building?
86 apartments.
Okay. Wow. So when you say it's been a smooth transition relatively, what are some of the other things that you've seen in your time with Chinburg where it's projects that I'm like, I don't know how we're going to get to the end of this, but we get to the end of it? What are some of the obstructions that you run into?
Absolutely. I think a good comparison is the Stenton Mill in downtown Sanford. So that's off of River Street. It's a project we've been working on for the last year or so. And it is just significantly more complicated given the condition of the building. So that mill complex suffered a large fire back in 2017. There was two towers or mill buildings next to each other. And one of them was completely engulfed, and damage was sustained to the sister building next door, both from the fire, but also from the water deluge from putting out the fire of the adjacent building, and then just general abandonment. The property hasn't been in productive use since 2007. The city took the property or the sewage district took the property for unpaid sewer bills. Back in 2020, secured some money to clean up the property, demolish the building that had caught fire, which was no longer structurally sound. But the remaining building on the property is highly visible in downtown Sanford, right on River Street. Has been there for over 100 years, and obviously is part of the community and the history of the town. And there was an interest in figuring out a project there, but the condition of the building is just really complicated. The roof has been open for 10 years at this point, so the inside is just literally trees growing out of the floor. The structure of the floor is rotting and it's sagging, and it's not a safe building, frankly, at this point in time. So figuring out with your design team and engineers, how you can save the building structurally, and then make it habitable is quite a challenge. And there's a lot of unknowns until you really get into the details and start literally digging around the site or demolishing things. So yeah, it's very complicated. There's a lot of risks involved for a developer in going through a project like the Stenton Mill. Comparing that to Jagger, the building had been occupied up until the time that Chinburg bought it in 2024. And the Jagger family had owned it for 2 or 3 generations previously. And it was, well cared for, and the Jagger family had extensive knowledge of the building and recent work they had done, or sort of the ins and outs of the properties.
Yeah,
so
it's like a turnkey for you.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful building.
Yeah.
I love Mills, and that one's particularly before even the work started on it. You could tell it was well cared for.
Yeah. So it's definitely one of those things where it varies from project to project. I think one of the things that is most challenging about adaptive reuse is no two projects are the same. So you've got to respond to the history of the site, the condition of the building, and remain flexible and curious, I suppose, to get the projects done.
Because Stenton Mill is huge, I would say, in comparison to Jagger Mill.
Yeah, it's roughly twice the size.
Yeah.
So it is a much larger building.
Yeah.
And that project is moving forward, and we've worked with the city to through an RFP process. The city obviously didn't want to continue owning that property, but we've worked closely with them to make a project viable there and get our entitlements through the city, and are planning to close on the property in October and start construction by the end of the year on an additional 150 apartments.
Wow.
So, which is really exciting that we get to save another historic building. I mean, that's really what motivates our team is a love of history and a love of beautiful buildings, and creating housing is like such a fantastic thing to do as well. And that is the means to the ends for us, right? Like it's like we're creating housing, which is such a great thing, and saving historic buildings. So it really is a win-win for our team. And we hope and I think history shows also for the communities that we do work in, returning these buildings back to productive use, preserving them for the generations to come, and then, helping to the extent we can with the regional housing crisis and, local revitalization efforts.
One thing that I've noticed about the Chinburg properties, and specifically the Jagger, and I can look through the the Chinburg website and see all the different amenities that go into it. It seems like what you guys have done have brought living, like home living, to apartment living. For example, you see like a sauna, you see a gym, you see like a whole cookout area. It seems like you really want your residents to be community members. Can you expand on some of not logic behind that, but the extra care that goes into it?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's been some evolution of this over time, but certainly on our recent projects, we think a lot about the community areas of our properties. The dimensions of these buildings and sort of the economics of these buildings mean that apartments are pretty efficient, right? So our unit mix is a mix of studios and 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. We don't often build 3 bedrooms or really large apartments, and it's just not feasible. But we can provide ample amenity spaces. So even if you have an efficiently sized apartment, you have a beautiful club room that you can have a birthday party in. You have a gym downstairs that you can, if you're working from home, you can go down and work out, and get back to the office. We often have community workspaces, kind of like co-working spaces in the amenity area. The reality of today is that most people have a pet, so we make sure that we have amenities to support their furry friends. And
I'm excited about the dog park.
Yes. Every property now has a dog run, and a pet wash. So if your dog's outside and gets playing in the mud, you can come home and there's a room that is designed for giving your dog a bath, so you don't have to haul it into your own tub and deal with all the cleanup involved.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So it's just being thoughtful about those things, and it's not those amenities are part of the fun, actually, and sort of being creative and thinking about, what would do well for our community and what residents would use and enjoy. So.
Right. And I feel like a lot of these newer developments that are going up for apartments are offering those sorts of things. And I think it's a good movement, because if you want people to feel like they're truly home and they want to stay where they are, having these amenities are just, icing on the cake for them, I think. And like you said, if you have a 1-bedroom apartment, you're not going to necessarily have room for the exercise equipment that you might want. So having a gym downstairs is the perfect solution for that. So
and we also try and make something beautiful, right? And that just having a lovely landscaped patio or a lobby, so that when you come home, there's a sense of arrival when you come home, and you're not just, going through a soulless elevator lobby or something like that. So, we care a lot about how the community looks and feels, and there's an opportunity too. I think we have a lot of long-term residents in other communities, and they really inhabit those spaces.
So the mill redevelopments have been going on for, now probably like 25, 30 years. First one I remember seeing was in Burlington, Vermont, and I thought to myself, man, that's really, really cool. One of my friends in school was going out to, or lived in one of those places, and being a Sanford guy, I thought to myself, why don't we do that around here? And it obviously took, the time that it took to make it happen. And in between now, or then and now, there have been so many that have been redeveloped. And Paul, in your time, what drew you to this line of work?
Yeah, again, Somersworth County. So it was a historic mill town, much like Sanford, and many of these, basically any city in northern New England was very likely it was either a port or it was a mill town. Right. So if you're on a river, it was probably a mill town. And, I think we all know the sort of arc of history was the Industrial Revolution sort of developed a massive industrial complex around rivers and hydropower and textile and shoe manufacturing. But, labor costs in the globalized world shift, and so did the manufacturing. So that manufacturing largely left New England by the 1970s and really, really left by the 1990s and shifted either overseas or down south to cheaper labor and energy markets, which left a ton of vacant space in northern New England that wasn't being utilized. Yeah. And these communities were literally built around and for these factories. And growing up in Somersworth, I saw that firsthand. I experienced that decline firsthand. We had a GE was the main tenant of a large mill in downtown Somersworth, and they slowly ramped down their occupancy of that building while I was growing up, and you could see the detrimental effect it had on other downtown businesses and vibrancy and community morale. Yeah. And there was decisions that were made over time, I think, that were well-intended, but maybe short-sighted or lacking in expertise and sort of how to address some of those changes and achieve revitalization. So that's sort of how I got into the industry. I ended up studying city planning and really getting into how to make projects work and how cities work and anyways, it was really through a love of history and of place that got me in the industry and attracted me ultimately to Chinburg, who has a very similar sensibility and a business model and a skill set that supports reusing these historic buildings and preserving them and getting them back on in the community's hearts and not just sort of on the edge of them.
Yeah.
Has there been a place or a time where you've looked at a building and you thought to yourself, boy, I'd love to be able to do that, but it's just not going to work?
Yeah, for sure.
You get in there a little bit. Well, I'm thinking about the trees that are in the mill that we're just talking about, the Stenton Mill. And I'm like, how do they, remove the trees? Or how does this even work? I mean, how many people does it take, or if you can forecast it out, how many people would you foresee to work on this Stenton project from soup to nuts by the time it's all said and done?
Oh, it's an army. It's an army of people. So just, before you even a shovel hits the ground, it's an army of people. It's, I'm basically a glorified project manager. So I help, I help guide the vision, create the vision from the day one, help, underwrite the project, make sure that it's financially viable, that we can actually make sense of the opportunity. and then guide the design team. But the design team isn't just architects; it's mechanical engineers, it's plumbing engineers, it's electrical engineers, it's civil engineers, it's geotechnical engineers, it's structural engineers. It is sometimes
You're the guy who knows a guy.
traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I am a generalist that just engages with a bunch of people that are smarter and more skilled than I am to achieve a vision. And then obviously once we're in construction, it is just dozens and dozens of construction teams of various skill sets, the subcontractors. So all of those same divisions, guys that specialize in drywall, electricians, plumbers, window, people, roof people.
Do you think
all
with that
sorts.
project you'll do it kind of all at once, or do you think you're going to have to phase it? Because it is a big project.
Well, they got to call the tree people first.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Demo is definitely getting called first, but that project is going to be all at once.
Yeah.
But it's everything is sequenced, right?
Sure.
So you can't obviously paint
Right,
until
right.
there are walls to be painted. So
Right.
so it
Yeah,
is.
start with the soil and the floors and all the
Yes,
structural
get the
stuff.
tree,
Yeah,
get the trees,
trees
out.
out.
Of there. The funny thing is, like, the trees don't bother me so much. It is I think the structural issues are definitely, there's a limit to like how much a building can sort of deteriorate before it can be brought back. So I think that is one of the big concerns when we see an opportunity, and like there's to your point, there are many beautiful buildings that are unfortunately deteriorating, and
Yeah.
you kind of got to go in and do a feasibility assessment.
Can't save them all.
You can't, unfortunately. And then there are just dimensional requirements that are kind of fundamental to, like, people, when you want an apartment, you want natural light. So
Right.
if the building is too wide, then it becomes difficult to make it housing. And then you're sort of stuck with, okay, if it can't be housing, then is there sufficient demand for industrial or commercial space? And the answer, unfortunately, in the world we live in now, is probably not, or at least not at the scale of a lot of these buildings.
Sure.
And there's an economic reality, right? So we just
Right.
need to figure out, construction, as much as people like working on these projects because they're beautiful and they're restoring, part of local history, they are not giving you a discount for that work, right?
Right.
Like they're going to get paid. And it's quite expensive. So it's just figuring out, how can we justify these projects? How can we make the economics work too, is sometimes the heartbreaking reality of it.
These apartments are going to be considered affordable housing.
They're not. These
They're
are
not.
actually
Okay.
market
Okay.
rate. Yeah.
Okay. And all housing is needed right now, especially in Sanford. I mean, we have the what they call the national housing crisis. I know we talked about it in Maine when we just went to our Chamber of Commerce annual retreat, I guess we call it, conference. It was a big topic, was housing, because it all ties together. And I know Sanford's really thinking about housing, but you do need multi-levels of housing for people. So do you think that this will be a part of a step towards that housing crisis? Or?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think so. To nerd out for a moment on sort of
I love it when people.
the housing.
You can always learn so much.
Yeah.
A housing economics or land economics nerd. But you're 100% right. So more housing is more better, right?
Right.
And if we build a building, 86 apartments, and it's market rate housing, so we're pricing it at what we believe the market can support
Sure.
and what we need to sort of justify the project's existence. If we weren't doing that, we would require subsidy, like additional subsidy, which is usually in the form of affordable housing tax credits, which is or low income housing tax credits. Excuse me. That's not a line of business we're currently in, but it is certainly a wonderful tool to build affordable housing out of the gate. But the way the sort of economic arc typically works is new housing's built, and that is kind of the top of the line. It functions much the same way that cars do. If you can't afford a new car, you buy a used car, right? And if no one's building new cars, then used cars become more expensive, because there's just a lack of supply for new cars, especially used cars that were in a good condition, right? So new product is is at the higher end of the market perhaps, but there's usually demand, or we believe there's demand there. And the people that are renting our apartments are freeing up probably an older, more affordable apartment for someone else to rent. And that is all for the better.
Right. Yep, definitely.
Speaking freely, when I heard that you guys were coming to town and Chinburg was behind this project, I was I still am in between residences. For example, I own a house out in Limerick, right? But it's really hard to run the business from Limerick and do it here and do all the social things that you need. So I'm thinking, well, where do I want to live in Sanford? And I wasn't quite at the point where I'm going to build on the family property yet. We're just probably a few years away from that. So then it became, where could I live in town? And there were few options. I wasn't going to live in affordable housing, nor could I afford, a 3-bedroom penthouse. Yeah. Somewhere in between, affordable market rate, and just the level of care that Chinburg. And I heard you guys are coming in. I'm like, I'm on that waiting list right away. And I'm sure, and tell me what the response has been since announcing that these were going to be leased.
It's been very positive. We had an open house a few weeks back that was very well attended. I think there was a lot of energy in the community around the project and the building, and that has generated significant interest in the apartments. And I think we're 30% leased already on those 86 units. So, which is great, and it's just showing sort of that alignment to your point that folks are looking for quality housing and a good value, and we believe we offer that, and that we're excited to be in Springvale and Sanford, and it's going well.
This isn't just for people who are in their first or couple of apartments. I found when I was doing the tour that I ran into a lot of people who are looking to downsize. They're empty nesters and they don't want to take care of a full property. I have no time to take care of the yard anymore.
Right.
And it makes sense for people, I think, on both sides of life to meet in the middle on that. Have you seen a lot of, I wouldn't say older Americans because that would put us in there, but people who are, let's just say, they can rent a car. They're over 25.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think that is for sure one of the groups that are attracted to a amenitized, managed property. Right?
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, you're not shoveling your snow. You're you have your mail. There's a mail room. There's a package room. You don't have to go out and brave the climate to get your packages.
Are you implying we have rough winters in Maine?
Yeah.
7 months.
I know, right? It feels like it gets longer and longer every year.
Yes, exactly. And and as we talked about earlier, having amenities is appealing for those folks as well, and it gives them an opportunity for a sense of community, but with no maintenance obligation, right? Which is we're all busy, and particularly the housing stock in our part of the world is just older, right? And the reality of owning an older home is
maintenance.
Yeah, maintenance.
Yeah.
It matters, and I think having housing opportunities that are less arduous is attractive, especially for older folks.
I'd rather have you own my old home. Right?
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Because if you get an aging home, it's 70 years old, automatically needs a roof.
Yeah.
I
was going to say, every time that hits the 30-year mark, that's when you have to get the new roof. The things start. Both the houses we've owned hit the 30-year mark while we were owning them. We're like, here we go.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, even by regional standards, a 30-year-old home is not old in this part of the world, right? And a lot of folks own, the house I own in Somersworth is coming up on 200.
That's great.
Wow.
So, that, and those properties have had however many roofs replaced, and just it is a different ball of wax, right? So.
200. Just think of the amount of people that have walked through through that building.
Yeah, haunted for sure.
And the line. Good point. I was thinking of just happy times. The haunted part.
I love that though. Both mills are kind of truly in downtown areas. Of course, most mills are going to be, but the idea of having more occupancy in any downtown is always a good thing because it drives more business, and then people say, well, there's more people living right downtown that need this and need that, and that opens the opportunity for businesses to look differently at where they want to be because they have a bigger population to serve, and some perhaps guaranteed business by having people living close by, walkable even in both cases, really. So yeah, it's a very, very cyclical, which is why we were talking about it at the Chamber of Commerce annual meeting, because it was, it is really related to each other, that housing. So,
and it's talking about going back to sort of the history of the economy and how it has ebbed and flowed. Demographics have changed too, right? So like when these mills were operational and at their peak, people had larger families. They had intergenerational living was more common. So, basically we lived more densely at that time. So people, move out earlier. They don't live intergenerational anymore. And so basically housing takes up more space now, which is to say that less people are living in downtown, even if downtown has the same amount of housing units, because we have less people per unit.
Right.
So building new housing in and around downtown sort of supports getting them back to sort of the historic vibrancy, of what people kind of anticipate. So it's good.
Yeah.
It's a good movement.
So, Paul, you're a Somersworth kid through and through. You've returned there, but in between, you went to school in Boston.
That's right.
What brought you back to Somersworth?
Community, I would say. I have a lot of very close friends. We grew up on the Hill, and I love them dearly. And COVID was happening, and you return to where your people are. And there was an opportunity at Chinburg at the same time. I met with Eric, got a coffee, and really liked what I had heard, and it sounded like they needed help. And so we kept the conversation going, and there was just alignment between sort of my career and my desire to reconnect with my community. So
what was that meeting like, sitting down with Eric Chinburg?
Great. He's a great guy. He's a great guy.
Kind of coffee.
Very, very easy to talk to. And the reason I'm still here, and he was able to make an offer that was convincing to me, was because we believe in the same things, right? And he cares a lot about the work we do and the projects and the history and doing the right thing. And I wouldn't be there if that wasn't true. So it was a very easy conversation. It's never not been.
Those are the best.
Yeah. Well, I'm familiar with Chinburg from Dover and Rollinsford, but you also said there's properties up in Saco, Biddeford, and so you really cover York County and some of the Seacoast area. Is there anywhere next that you guys are kind of keeping your eye on, a specific mill development or anything, or is that spilling the beans?
No, we're always open to opportunities if anyone knows of any. But I think Sanford has a lot of opportunity left. I mean, Stenton is just one of several buildings in the downtown that could have future opportunity, and we've got, as you mentioned, we've got a lot of properties up in Biddeford and Saco, and we're open. This is our neighborhood, and we're keeping our ears and eyes open for what building and project is next.
Great.
Is there something on the horizon that you can discuss?
No, there's not. There's, other than the Stenton Mill, I think that's the next.
That's a big enough project.
We'll talk in 5 years.
That's going to take everyone's effort.
Exactly. Yeah, these projects are long lived. Right?
Oh, sure.
So I refer
how
them
long?
as,
That's got to be like a 3-year project at least.
Yeah,
right?
they're in kindergarten, if not first grade, oftentimes by the time they leave the nest.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. It's gonna be
it'll
so
look
cool right on the water.
I think people
like
are going to
that.
be really excited to see
we're-
it. Jagger finished and then moving on, and it'll be great.
Yeah, we're really excited about it.
Well, thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You've been listening to York County Conversations. For more information about this episode, to be on the show, or become a member of the Chamber, reach out to sanfordchamber.org. That's sanfordchamber.org.